And welcome back to the show. In recent news, a settlement agreement was reached for blind individuals. People who are blind and use screen readers will now have independent access to life-saving information offered by NY Alert, New York State's mass notification system. And joining us to tell more details is the staff attorney at Disability Rights Advocates, Chloe Holzman. And Chloe, good to have you.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, talk to me a little bit about what this settlement actually means for those who are blind.
Sure. So just to take a step back for a minute, New York has a service called New York Alert, which is a mass notification system you mentioned that people can sign up for to receive emergency notifications about all kinds of things like storms, natural disasters, hazardous conditions, transportation alerts, health alerts, nuclear power plant alerts. And up until this settlement, it wasn't possible for people who are blind and use screen reader technology to be able to access the New York Alert website and sign up independently for alerts and configure their settings or just be able to use the site. And so now we're really pleased that we have an agreement that's going to bring access to this really critical emergency service.
Yeah, that's great to have, but I want to ask the question about how much of an uphill battle was this for you really to come across the finish line?
Well, we're really pleased that we were able to go into settlement negotiations with the state almost immediately when we filed the case. And so I'm happy to say that they also recognized that this was the right way to resolve this. And so I would say comparatively, this case wasn't as grueling in terms of litigation as some disability rights cases can be. And so I want to recognize the state for doing the right thing and reaching this agreement so that everybody can have access to this service.
Yeah, and for many people, they're not really aware of some of the challenges those in the disability and the disabled community face. Can you share with us a little bit about what are some of the challenges that you're fighting for that maybe the public can become more aware about?
Yeah, absolutely. So my organization, Disability Rights Advocates, is a nonprofit law firm that's based in California, and we have a New York office. I'm a staff attorney here in the New York office, and we do work nationwide to advance the rights of people with disabilities primarily through impact litigation. And so that's bringing disability rights cases under the Americans with Disabilities Act and other federal and state and local laws that protect people with disabilities. And we've brought cases in all kinds of different spheres. So improving access to education, healthcare, employment, transportation. We have a number of cases now against the MTA trying to make the subway system accessible here in New York. So housing, voting, we're working on all different kinds of fronts, and there's challenges on all of those fronts.
Yeah. When we talk about those challenges, obviously they're few, I mean, they're many. And for those who are watching right now, I mean, I think there are people who are saying, listen, how can I become more involved in advocating for those who are disabled? Because sometimes the public really just doesn't know. So how can the public play a part in advocating for disabled rights?
That's a great question. And so I would encourage anyone who's interested in the work that my organization is doing to check out our website, which is dralegal.org, dralegal.org. And so there's information there about the cases that we bring and the kinds of work we do. We do other kinds of education and advocacy work as well. And of course, there's a very rich, diverse community of disability rights activists here in New York and across the country. And so contacting us, I guess, is a starting point, but there's all different ways. I mean, for example, our plaintiff in this New York Alert case, one of our plaintiffs is an organization called the American Council of the Blind of New York. And so that's one example of an organization that's a member organization that works locally here to help support and advance the rights of people with disabilities. And there's many others like it that work throughout the New York region to help support and advance people's rights.
Yeah. Can you share with us a little bit about the risk involved? Because with this particular settlement, if it didn't take place, from what I understand, it definitely puts the disabled really at a high level of risk.
Sure. Well, it's the kind of situation where everybody is at risk, I think, if as we've seen, especially recently with the pandemic, with the recent storms and floods that have hit our region. It's, I think really highlighted how important it is for people, the public, to have access to real-time information about dangers that are happening and crises that are happening. But particularly for people who are blind, it may be that they're particularly vulnerable in terms of having disruptions to their transportation routes or the ways that they access getting around. Just like all of us, relying on public transportation, want real-time information about when there's a disruption. That's the same for people who are blind. And that's why we're really glad that now they're no longer left out of getting these alerts that everyone else has had access to.
Chloe, it's been great talking to you. I want to bring you back. Hopefully, you get an opportunity to share a little bit so we can talk about how the disabled has actually been affected during this COVID-19 pandemic. I think it's a worthy conversation, but we're out of time now. But thank you so much for being with us, Chloe Holzman.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I want to let you know if you want more information, we encourage you, visit their website, dralegal.org, and then also follow them on social media at dralegal. We do have more show coming up, so please don't go anywhere. Open continues coming up right after this.